Today on the TheSavageGoose Show, we're going to talk about Deadlands and the 30th Anniversary Kickstarter and what's in it, what kind of new products do we see, and what should you get for your table. We'll talk about all of that and more, but first, we're going to talk about the newsletter. Heading over to this week's newsletter from Pinnacle. First off, we have what you can expect, with today being the first day of the Kickstarter. The main thing that they're going to be talking about is the 30-year, the Kickstarter for this. So no two big surprises there. We're not going to dive into this story in here because we're going to go through detailed steps going through the Kickstarter. So we're not going to go too much into this particular story, but let's look forward to that. This is a similar thing here. We will talk about that in a moment. There is a sale. Yes, there's a sale on companions on Fantasy Grounds. So if you're using Fantasy Grounds as your virtual tabletop and you want to get things like the Fantasy Companion, or the Horror Companion, or the Superpowers Companion. Actually, sorry, Fantasy Companion's not on here. It's just Fantasy, Horror, Superpowers. They have science fiction in the image. So I'm not sure what's up that. Either way, the companions are on sale. So if you want to go check those out, you can take a look at those. Those will let you kind of create whatever setting you want. You can use your setting rules from those to create anything specific that you want to using Savage Worlds. One of the great things about Savage Worlds is just how modular it is. It's one of the things I like about it. So if you're using Fantasy Grounds as your virtual tabletop, it's now free to use, free to get. You can now get these through Steam or through Fantasy Grounds online store for your Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop. Foundry is also having a sale to mark its 1-year anniversary of the virtual tabletop marketplace. Now they have a place where you can go ahead and buy things for Foundry. You can go and do that. There's some good deals, lots of products for 20% off, including some Savage Worlds products. So take a look at that. That deal ends next week. Next week is the 25th. So take a look at that. On the Savage Universe stream, the last week's stream got rescheduled. James Smith, owner and operator of Nightsmith Games, they do actual plays of Savage Worlds content and other things. If you're at all interested in hearing more about that, that got rescheduled to this Thursday at 6:30, which is almost exactly when my game starts. So I will definitely not be able to attend. But if you're actually no wait, this week is we don't have our game this week, so maybe, but probably not. We'll see. Anyways, if you're interested in watching that, you can take a look over on the Savage Universe stream over on the Twitch channel. And I think they also stream this to YouTube, but take a look at that. Looking at our crowdfunding reports, we have Europa, Bubble Northwest, and My World all have finished U.S. shipping. They're shipping international for some of them. And just looking forward to Doomguard coming soon. And hopefully Deadlands Dark Ages coming sometime this year. So I feel like I've seen an increase in the time it takes to get in between like different shipments. So I'm hoping that means that we'll see some stuff coming soon for Doomguard, but that is a much different product than their previous products have been. So it might take a little bit longer. Dark Ages should be hopefully fairly straightforward. We can get that soon. And back, we also talk about some new products. Only one new product I want to highlight this week, and that is Sleuth Squad Euro Tour. This is a free adventure. So if you have the Sleuth Squad book, it's a free adventure where you are taking your Sleuth Squad to Europe, and you're, accidentally crossing the road with a maniacal toad. So things like that. So if you want to have a little adventure, actually it's a 21-page adventure, so that's pretty cool. It's a free adventure for Euro Tour for Sleuth Squad, so I highly recommend taking a look at that. Sleuth Squad, we've highlighted it here on the channel before. It's a really cool, like Scooby-Doo-esque vibe feeling setting companion. It's not really a setting in itself. It's more like the rules that you need to play a game that's like Scooby-Doo. So check it out. Kickstarters. We have some Kickstarters coming up, like the Deadlands one. Currently ending on Thursday, February 26th, this is next week, is Occult City. This is a pulp superhero horror role-playing game. It takes place in the early 1900s, I believe in the noir eras, like 1930s, something like that. And you can play as super heroes with a horror bent to them. Think like Justice League Dark as an example of that. And this is currently going on from Doghouse Rules. Doghouse Rules has done some amazing things like Dust Bunnies and Sidewinder Recoiled and Trailer Park Shark Attack. So highly recommend looking at this if you're at all interested in superheroes or superhero horror type things. The Deadlands 30th Anniversary Kickstarter, which we'll talk about today, will end on Friday, March 13th. So if you got a bit of time right now, but don't wait too long. Also coming sometime in this year, hopefully soon. I haven't heard any word from Ben on when this is coming out, but Outlaw Girls and Cannibal Elves from White Witch Games for Vermilium. As I've been saying, I've been running my Vermilion game, and we're really enjoying the setting. I look forward. We're probably going to end somewhat soon. We'll see, and maybe within the next month, and then hopefully we come back to it at some point. After I have played some other games that we have. Phase World, a Rifts Dimension Savage setting, is coming to Savage Worlds from Anvil Studios. So if you are aware of the Savage Worlds sphere, Savage Rifts is a very popular setting done by Pinnacle and licensed from Palladium Games. Anvil Studios has gotten the rights to do Phase World, which is a Rifts Dimensions book, so for Savage World. So look forward to that. And if you don't understand what that means, if it helps, I don't fully know either. But we're going to be having Brandon from Anvil Studios on next week to talk about it. We're going to be streaming a little bit later to accompany his schedule, so about 9:30 Eastern time, and we'll hopefully get through that, and we'll talk about Phase World. All right, so now with all that being said and out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the main showcase, which is Deadlands: The Weird West 30th Anniversary Celebration. As you can see, already a great start for having been like 8 hours. It's a pretty good start for 8 hours. And real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. I do see a bunch of six chats in here. Let's see what we got right here now. Going to talk about looking through the chat here. 96 was the first year that 96 was the year that Deadlands was released for the first time for the first time at Origins. So it's been a while. 30th anniversary. All right, let's go ahead and just dive in to make sure I got those questions answered. Actually, here, maybe I'll just pull this over here so we can see a little bit better. And that's probably too. Hopefully that looks a little bit better for everybody. All right, so looking down through this, I want to start with our story here. We got Deadlands 30 Years in the Weird West. So if you do go check out my video, I released it last night because I wanted to get it out before the Kickstarter happened. It's a quick 15-minute video talking about the 30-year history of Deadlands. Not a whole lot about necessarily the inner workings of the setting itself, but just kind of the overview of the history of the setting as a product for gamers to play. And again, this is the 30th anniversary of that. Now, this year, unlike the 20th anniversary, where they did a reprint of the classic rules, we are focusing on the Savage Worlds version of Deadlands, which is more about 20 years old itself now, but maybe a little bit older at this point. But this is a really exciting time because we're seeing some really cool products coming out of this. So let's go and talk about all the things that are in this. The first thing is this really cool book that is just a kind of like a history book. It's a gallery book of the history of Deadlands. It is a cool glow in the dark cover, as you can see here, as it changes color. This is glow in the dark. It's just the history of the game. But as we look at rewards, you will also see that it comes with these dice and these tokens. These tokens are these metal tokens, and these are some really, really nice looking dice. I am definitely tempted to pick those up. We'll see. I have to figure out what I'm going to get because I haven't fully decided myself on what everything I'm going to get. Because as much as I'd like to just go all in, I don't think I can afford that. But for those of you who can, maybe you should because there's some really cool stuff in this Kickstarter. So as it says here, this book here is going to be the whole story of Deadlands. It's going to show off work, behind the scenes things they've done, stories from their conventions. It's going to talk about the possibility of, the failed possibility of a Deadlands movie and a Deadlands video game. And it's also going to talk about some authors who were part of the forwards. And if you didn't know, Bruce Campbell actually did a forward for one of the previous versions of the book. I believe it was the Marshal's Handbook in Deadlands Reloaded that he did the forward for, and he was also part of a it says live action game, but I don't know if that means like live action, like in person or what that means, but a game of Deadlands. So, which I think is super exciting. Now, if you put this book as part of your pledge, whether it be the pledge itself or an add-on, you can get your name in the book, and you can get your name in the book the way you want it in the book. So John Doom can just put either Johnny Doom or John Doom or whatever he wants. I can put the Savage Goose in, as they put here. You get Simon One Eye Lucas and Jody Critfield Queen Black. So whatever you want. And this is not something that, we see this a lot in other Kickstarters for other products, in general, as well as other Savage Worlds products, but we don't tend to see it in official Pinnacle things. Now, this might be because this is a limited, I believe, a limited book. Like, it's not going to be 30th anniversary book. I don't know if I think it's a limited run book. I could be wrong about that. I don't know if I think that says that somewhere. But yeah. So basically, after the Kickstarter, they'll let you know, hey, what do you want your name to be in the book? You'll fill out your name. That'll be what's in the book. Unless you put something really crude in there, in which case they might say, hey, you need to change it. But yeah. But I can put the Savage Goose in. I think that should be fine. My name is in a few other books as the Savage Goose. So yeah. Also, something they're doing is an event. They're doing an event called it's an anniversary event that's going to be happening in October, out towards Phoenix, which is I think where Shane lives. And basically, it's only to the first 100 people who sign up. It's like $500 to somewhere between $500 and $600 for this event. It's gonna be like food and all this other stuff that's happening, and like all these events and everything. You do have to get yourself out there, but it seems like a really cool event if you can manage to get out there and pay for the event ticket. So you'll get to spend time with the creators of Deadlands, different people who are involved in projects, and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's put it on here. So Deadlands Anniversary, we'll get a little bit more into everything that's going to be in this book. Again, we have the cover here. This is a glow-in-the-dark cover, which I think is just a really cool idea to have like a glow-in-the-dark cover. And I think the cover looks interesting, is here with even without the glow-in-the-dark. But as you kind of like, comes down, still looks pretty cool both ways. Conviction coins. So one of the things they're doing here, and one of the things we started seeing is, ever since I think the first time I did it was Holler, was the inclusion of conviction coins or some other way to do conviction other than just like a different color Benny, which is tends to be like the way I do it. Right now, the way that we've been doing it in our one game is that I have in our Pathfinder game, the conviction tokens are the regular Savage Worlds tokens, and the bennies are the ones that are specifically for Pathfinder. But these metal coins, I think, add a lot of like specialness to the conviction. Like, hey, if you're gonna spend this, it adds like a little more like this is super special and you get to spend it. Holler has them. I have them, my coins for Holler as well. I think they're still in my box set because, again, too many settings, not enough time, haven't gone around to it. But you can see here they have a bunch of different icons on them, and they look really nice. They're 10 coins. They are from an artist named Cheyenne Wright, and they don't plan on making these ever again. So once these are purchased and done, that's it, right? Yeah. John Nim says the event cost is $585, not including hotel stay and travel to get there. Obviously, yeah. He says here. Oh, John, do you also lives here? Yep, you both says you guys both live in the same town, I guess. Man, that sounds cool. I do have a cousin that lives out there, so I could probably. I think they live in. I can't remember if they live in Phoenix or Tucson. They might live in Tucson. Anyways, so they got some really cool coins. Also, let's take a look at these dice. I just want to. This is from Modern Artifice. These are some huckster dice that are included in the Kickstarter. If you get certain things. Let's just take a look here. Like, look at these. Look how pretty the purple is. They look really sharp. They're very sharp looking dice, but they also have like cards embedded in them, like little mini Deadlands cards. Let's see. We got what do we got here? With randomized cards from the Deadlands action deck. Okay, so these aren't even like you aren't necessarily going to get like the 7 or the 9 or the 10 like all time. You might get random ones. That's really cool. The extra wild die is a fiery gold with a Deadlands skull on the 6 side and features 2 Mantanu/Jokers. There we go. Those look sick. I really like to look at these. All right, so what about Deadlands itself? We got the memorial book, the the coins, the dice. What else are we getting? Well, let's kind of scroll down past here because I want to show. I don't want to we'll talk about this stuff, but let's just kind of scroll down and look at it. So first off, we're going to get a new core rule book and a book called Rascals, Varmints, and Relics. Okay, what do you mean a new core rule book, right? Well, the really cool thing about this is that they are going to put the Savage Worlds core rules and the Deadlands core rules all into one book. It used to be that you had to get two separate books. Now it's going to be one book. You only need one. Now, obviously, not everything in the core rulebook or even in the Deadlands book needs to be in this book, and we'll get into that a little more about the Deadlands book. But like, not everything in the Savage Worlds book core rulebook needs to be in there. All the setting rules don't need to be in there. The little extra bestiary doesn't necessarily need to be in there. Certain edges may not even need to be in there if they don't really fit the vibe of the setting. That's one of the things I really like to see more from Savage Worlds products, not even necessarily just Pinnacle products, but being able to create a book that just says, I have everything that I want for this game right here, without having to refer to other books. I'm excited that Savage Worlds, the Pinnacle, is doing it, so they can test out the waters, see what it looks like, and see how people respond to it. And I'm very curious to see how everything gets laid out and everything, and again gets combined together. Now, the book we do see down here is going to be, I saw a page count somewhere. Let's see here. Where's the pages? There we go. Okay, so we'll get to this in a moment. But it is the core rule book is going to be 332 pages, which is bigger than either of the other two books, but it about makes sense, right? It's the core rules and the Deadlands rules all combined into one. Again, if you have those two things already, you do not need to buy this book. In fact, there will actually be less content in the book than if you were to buy those two, separately. But for people who are just wanting to get into Deadlands, they don't want to buy into the Savage Worlds ecosystem. They just want to try Deadlands because it's a historic game. This is a really good opportunity. And hopefully, through the system, we can see people come into Savage Worlds and say, oh, this game is powered by Savage Worlds. What other things are powered by Savage Worlds? Now, one of my fears is that when they look at everything else, you're going to realize, oh, other things require me to get the core rules. But hopefully, people will be okay with that. Let's see here. I'm gonna look through the comments real quick. Just looking through here. Yeah, Michael says hacking probably won't be in the book. Yeah. The skill list probably will be cut down to only make sense of the set of the ones that are going to be in that book. I don't even know if piloting necessarily needs to be in there. I guess there is some like contraptions, some like weird science contraptions that do fly, so maybe it does need to be in there. But regardless, I think it's a really cool that they're gonna be able to cut down everything that cut down to only things that apply to Deadlands. Let's see here. Tom says in the main game, non-Savage Worlds, the players and the DM both had decks. Red and black jokers were kept in both decks. So could you pull 1 out of 51 cards on suicide die? Oh, I think they're just saying like the cards that are going to be inside them are random. Like it's like you're not going to get that's it's not going to be like this. Everyone's set is basically going to be unique, right? So if everyone gets a set of dice, everyone's set is going to be unique. And then you could actually, if you wanted to, like try to get like all spades or something, or get like a royal flush. You could try to like trade those. I imagine you could try to trade those dice to other people to like try to get your like royal flush or something. So you could like try to trade them out to like everyone who gets them. Yeah. Piloting probably would be weird science or cards or even. Yeah, piloting still might be in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. All right. Let's see here. I kind of jumped down here a little bit. Let's go ahead and go back up. So they're also going to be doing a leather-bound version of this core rulebook. It's going to be leather-bound, and it's going to have it's going to be signed as well. Now, this book alone is going to cost like I think the tier is $100 for this book alone, which I'm not saying it's not worth it, but oh man, that's so expensive. The original version is going to be this version here. It's going to be 50. And this one's 100, and I have regretted every single time I have not gotten one of the special edition books, like the leather-bound core rulebook or the holographic 20th anniversary edition core rulebook. I regretted it. I still don't know if I can justify spending $100 on a Deadlands book, but I think it looks really cool. And it looks really, yeah, it looks so beautiful. Let's see here. So yeah, I was going through here. But yeah, that looks awesome. Looking down here, I'm going to skip through a few things here. Why should you back now? Well, one, these are Kickstarter campaign exclusive prices. The new core for okay, so this is actually a good point here. The new core rulebook is going to be $50 here, but it will retail for $60. So there's a good chance to get this book. Now I'm going to get the book now because I really wanted to kind of like see how they end up laying out everything, how they kind of combine those two rules, all those rules into one book. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's good to know that it'll be retailing for $60. Also, any of the 30th anniversary awards in the campaign are also exclusive. So I think like the 30th anniversary book, the conviction tokens, and the dice, these are all exclusive to the Kickstarter. So yeah, see that. And as well as the leather-bound version, which is like I like one reason to get that now. All right, moving on. So if you're new, they're saying the best way to start out is to get this set here. We'll talk about all things in here now. So let's go ahead and go down the rewards here. So we talked about the core rules, the Rascals and Vermins book we'll talk about now. So this is basically a bestiary for Deadlands. So include additional creatures from the previous Deadlands setting books and updated profiles for important characters from the now out of print Deadlands companion, along with updated profiles for the servitors. It also includes all the relics from the previous Deadlands setting book. So basically any of the relics or the monsters from the previous Deadlands core rule book or the companion book have all been added to this book as a separate bestiary book that is not necessarily required, right? Because most of the adventures have the monsters, the monsters, I'll say, already in them. It's just to serve as a bestiary if you want it and to run your own custom campaigns, etc., just like they do for the Savage Pathfinder game. I think one of the things they're seeing is that Savage Pathfinder has been doing really well by having its own core rulebook separate from the other rules, which was a requirement likely for licensing from Paizo. But they're seeing a lot of really good success from it, right? They're having the core rulebook plus bestiaries and like other option books. I think they're just enjoying seeing that, and when I tried doing that with Deadlands, which is super exciting. Now, the Deadlands bestiary book here, the Rascals, Varmints, and Relics, is to be 144 pages. But that they won't have a final page count until all the artists get their illustrations in there. Let's see. Going through here. Dark Angel says, I decided to go all in, and anything that would be a duplicate, I'm going to gift to a friend that really likes Deadlands. Nice long up. Yeah. It's tempting. What are the size of limited edition books? They should be around the same size as normal books. They do tend to be a little bit bigger just because of the extra padding from the like leather bound nature of them. But they're like generally speaking, like the pages themselves can be the same size. Yeah, the Holler book is actually the only special edition version of a book I have. Yeah, and it basically sits flush with my other books actually. So even with the extra leather, it kind of sits flush. So, all right. So moving on, Deadlands accessory box. Okay, so this is something that that you can get. It's from what I can tell, this is all the things that are in the starter set that you don't need if you're already into Deadlands, right? So it's got the tokens. It's got these like cardboard bennies. It's got blast templates. It's got status tokens. I think it's got some conviction tokens, some like dials for your ammo, an action deck, a map, and dice, right? So from what I can tell, it seems like it's everything that's in the starter set that's not like the rules or the adventure or the archetype cards and stuff that are in there. Yeah, here we go. And so then we have the power cards. This is actually really cool. I like this a lot. So if you've been doing other Savage Worlds, if you've played Savage Worlds for a while or getting the other Kickstarters and stuff, you've probably gotten power cards for like the companions or like the fantasy companion or the core rules even, and they're very generic because they're meant for the generic system. One of the things they're doing here is not only are they customizing these cards for the setting of Savage World for Deadlands and making all the cards like art styles and such like unique to Savage Worlds, but they are creating a set per every arcane background. So if some arcane backgrounds don't get access to certain powers, they won't be part of the set. But you can just take, like, if you're a blessed character, you say, okay, I'm gonna take the blessed pack, I'm gonna take the Chi Master pack, I'm gonna take the Huckster pack, etc., 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 and just grab those packs of powers that belong to your class. Now, obviously, if there's multiple people in your party who are the same class, or sorry, I say class, it's not class, arcane background. Difference. There's a difference. The arcane background, if you can just take those power cards and they'll match the style, and they'll have their own like backgrounds and stuff depending on which arcane background you're taking them for. We're seeing this a lot more in D&D, not D&D, sorry. We're seeing this a lot more in RPGs that are using cards. And Savage has been using cards for quite a while, but I like that they're now customizing them for the flavor of Deadlands. And it really kind of shows me that Pinnacle appears to be putting Deadlands kind of more at the forefront of their lineup, more so than before, to say, okay, we are specifically going to support Deadlands as its own line, that it's going to be somewhat separate from the Savage Worlds, rest of our Savage Worlds line, which I think makes a lot of sense. Specifically, these actually kind of remind me of the cards that you can get in Daggerheart. I don't know too much about Daggerheart and the way they do their cards, but I do know that you get like different packs of cards depending on like what abilities and stuff you take. So I feel like that might be where the idea is coming from. And a lot of other games are trying to do that too. Shadow Dark is doing it. Some other games are doing it where they're taking like cards depending on like what your arcane background is or what your class is, like cast magic, whatever. So these look really cool. I don't know if I'll be getting them because I don't know how much it really will add for my game, but I do think it looks really good. Next up is the Deadlands starter box. I'm real quick going to take a look over here. Yeah, okay. The starter box is something I actually been saying for I think I said it last year that I really wanted to see them do, and then I kind of talked about it again beginning of this year, and now they're doing it. Starter boxes are some of the best ways to get people into a game, because even though I think it's still gonna be like fairly expensive. I think it's like maybe $50, maybe $60 retail. It is going to give you a lot of material to run a really good game of that setting of Deadlands for some people, and it lets you curate everything in that box particular to that adventure and that experience. It lets you kind of create the experience that you want people to have for your game at the best way possible. So if we take a look down at what's in it, okay? So it's going to contain a showcase version of the rules. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm sure it means like, it's going to contain probably like only the edges that are referenced on the archetypes. It probably will only reference the skills that are on there. Probably will only show off the general idea of the system. Like maybe you won't have certain rules like environmental hazards, right? Probably don't need to have environmental hazards in there, but it probably will explain fear and fear levels. It might explain a few other things from Deadlands, but not explain things from Savage Worlds that don't apply in this situation. So based on the render, it looks like the book is going to be fairly like thin and probably more look a lot more like maybe the basic rules from one of the starter sets from like D&D, for example, which tend to be like these very thin, small magazine style rules. There's also going to be Nickel says showcase may just be rebranded test drive rules, and I hope it's a little bit more than test drive rules, because I think the test drive rules, at least for me, just aren't. It doesn't seem like there's enough rules there for people to really understand the game. So I do hope that there's a little bit more than that. Also in this is going to be a complete adventure called The Cursed Caverns, which just sounds like a really good starter adventure, right? The first starter adventure I ever ran was The Lost Mines of Phandelver for D&D 5th edition way back in 2014 when the starter set came out. And that was 12 years ago now. Jeez. Okay. Stop feeling old. And this feels like just like that kind of thing, right? The Cursed Cavern, something a little bit more generic that's not necessarily tied into the larger world, but still a full adventure that should get players invested into the game. Now, this part is really cool, is the maps. And you look at this here and look what's in the render, at least. And there's quite a few maps. We have these maps over here. Looks like a building here. It looks fairly large. We see this train track, and we see some like these train tokens, punch out train cars are on here as well that you can then put, I'm guessing, put on this track over here. You can't, I don't think you can see my cursor. But it looks like on this map here, you can see like a railroad, and you can put maybe the train cars on that railroad. Then you have some punch out tokens of different monsters you can fight. Maybe I think the characters that you play as are also punch out tokens here. You also have your cardboard bennies, your templates, your status tokens, fiction tokens, an action deck, which I don't know. There's something about this action deck that looks really good. I haven't been a huge fan of previous action decks from Pinnacle, at least for the companions. I don't tend to get them very often for the other things, but there's something about the way that they're doing them in this one that I really like. Maybe it's because they still look like a standard deck of playing cards, and I do really like playing card looks. So you can see here, like this is actually a set that I bought for playing Deadlands whenever I do. It's a bourbon set, is what it says. And I just like the, I like the art in the back here. I like looking at the art. I like looking at cards that look like playing cards, but still have a unique vibe to them. Like this one's the queen, but she's got whiskey barrels. So I want my cards to still look like cards, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, I'm okay with people are saying I like the big card sizes. I have mixed feelings about them. I don't hate big cards, but there's something about like a standard deck of playing cards that I really like the tactical feel of. But the big cards are really good for just being able to see across the room, like what do you have? I don't tend to have tables that so big that I can't see, and also I tend to stand up while I GM combats, at least, just because I'm like intense, like okay, you're gonna do this, okay, getting into everyone's faces. But point being is that I like that the cards, even though they are bigger, I feel like they look like playing cards, and that's the thing I really want to see. Finkel says I don't like the oversized nature of their cards. Yeah, it's people. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm on the fence. I get why they're big, but I do like just having a standard size card pack. Let's see here. So we got maps, we have tokens, we have pawns, action deck, bennies, templates, and archetype cards. So there is some archetype cards, so you can play as basically pre-generated characters that are archetypes. I am curious on what level they are. I'm hoping they're like at least seasoned. When I play through or novice, and if they are playing as novice, I hope they have enough rules in the basic rules for players to level up. If they go through this whole entire adventure without leveling up, and they're starting at novice, that's not going to be very fun. One of the best parts about any game is leveling up. So hopefully those rules for leveling up are going to be in the basic rules so that they can level up the characters. Now, the other thing I noticed is that there is 3 books here, or 4. There's 4 books, the basic rules. Then we see 3 different books here, which actually tells me I think this is going to be a fairly long adventure. I don't think that this Cursed Caverns is 1 book. I think it's 3 books to do the whole entire adventure. And I have not gotten the D&D star set for 2024 D&D star set, which I hear is amazing, by the way, as far as like design and like everything that's in it. But I believe they did something similar where the adventure in that star set is actually 3 different books, so people can run the first book and then trade off with another player to become the DM, and they run the next book, and then just kind of cycling through that there. I'm curious if that's what's happening. And again, I hope that there's some way for the players to level up from the star set, in some in the basic rules or something. So either having options for hindrances or edges rather, or something, so they can level up and get other edges, not just increasing their skills. Um, is the Cursed Cavern that one that they ran at Gen Con this past year and live streamed it? I don't know. Now you're making me look it up though. Deadlands Gen Con live stream. I don't recall. Let's take a look here. Deadlands live play, Deadlands Gen Con. Oh, I'm gonna look, but I'm not finding anything immediate. Either way. Yeah, the John, yeah, they usually are seasoned these days, but if they're trying to do it as a starter set, I feel like you should start them out at level 1 or like novice with no, and just get them up to novice or seasoned. If you can have like the progression come up to seasoned, I think that'd be ideal. And maybe even putting in the like what the players, not what the players should do, but like doing a putting into the adventure one player should be leveling up to give the GM some sense of how often level up should be happening. All right, then you have the soft on the bound book. Anything else? You can do a bunch of different add-ons. Basically, anything that's happened in Deadlands that's been updated to Deadlands Weird West in Deadlands the Weird West in Suede, you can add in as a set that you can get for as an add-on. Now, I will say I'm going to be probably heavily using this because as someone said, it's not like only things new, and trying to figure out. You can see what I got right now is the Deadlands Star set because I'm really interested in getting that Star set box and kind of analyzing it and seeing how it runs for like new players and such. I might actually just like once I get this Star set, I might use that as my way of like testing it out, and or trying to get other people into the game. That being said, I also means that this Kickstarter is happening this month. It probably won't get this box won't come to me until next year. So we'll see. But then you have like the anniversary book, the core rule book, the core plus the thing there. You got the anniversary book, and you got the Marshall Plus, Veterans of the Wild West, and the Deadlands All In. This would be tempting to me if I just took this and then added in the starter set because that's basically everything I want. I don't really care getting the bestiary or the power cards or the accessories box, but I do want the starter set, and I kind of want these and these and these. That's definitely like what I'm leaning towards. Let's see here. Going back over to the chat, John Doom says, I want to say Daryl was running it and Shane's son was playing. Okay. Cool. I will kind of jump real quick to the end here about their recent challenges. This is their 40th Kickstarter, and they've delivered on every single one of them. Have they delivered on time? Not necessarily. I know there were some ones that got delayed because of COVID. I think we can understand why that was delayed, but they have delivered every single one of their Kickstarters, all 40 of them, which they started doing in the early 2010s. So usually doing like 4 a year approximately. So they know what they're doing. You can feel confident that they're going to get it right. All right. Well, that is everything for this Kickstarter. I didn't want to go too deep, but I did want to talk about like what I saw, what I liked, what I didn't like. I will say the art. This thing I don't know why, but this thing about the art on the core rulebook and the varmints and I just don't care for. I know that the core rulebook art is a really old art, as in like art that they've had for the game for a long time. That might be part of it. Is I don't feel like the art matches the new style compared to like the accessories box, star set, and power cards, and even compared to other suede versions of books. I know that they said this is not necessarily the final rendering of these products, so I am kind of hoping that the art on these might change, so we can see something a little bit different, and maybe a little bit more modern as terms art style to match the rest of the things that are coming out for Deadlands these days. All right. I'm gonna do like one last shout out for questions or comments or thoughts in the comments chat down below. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not hearing seeing anything. I hope you all I had a good time talking about this. I'm super excited for this Kickstarter. I'm super excited for what's happening in the future. As I think John Doe mentioned, the very next thing that's happening this year is going to be the second version of East Texas University. Code name right now, I believe, is New Blood or something like that. Fresh Blood, that might be what it was. Fresh Blood. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I did enjoy our ETU campaign that we had this past year. I know they're working on some like updates that'll probably address some of the issues that we had running it, which is how to deal with modern technology and those kind of things. So look forward to that. Look forward to ETU 2 whenever that comes out. There'll be a Suede version where the previous version was for Explorers Edition. And yeah, well, I'm just looking forward to seeing what other kind of things are happening. One of the things they did talk about is that they are going to be doing something in Deadlands in a media platform that they have not done before or something along those lines. They talked about a failed movie and a failed video game, and I kind of hope that they're going to do a video game. Like they're going to say that they've been hyping up like, yeah, he failed a video game. I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately. I'm like, but they're going to release an actual video game this year. Here's hoping. I think it'd be really fun. I see people talk about wanting to do a Savage Worlds RPG where they use Savage Worlds mechanics to do that. I think it'd be really fun. I know that people will be like, "Oh, that's really scary because you're just going to like explode a whole bunch of times or the enemies will explode a bunch of times and just kill you." I'm like, yeah, it's possible, but also like that's just kind of part of the fun. So, all right. Well, thank you all for hanging out, and I hope you guys are excited for this Kickstarter. I am excited to see that's already very successful. Already hitting $123,000 in the first 9 hours of the Kickstarter. And I know that there's going to be plenty more to come. And I hope you all have a great time. And until next week, stay savage.